Hello. So I've been looking through the comments of the past few videos, and there's been some really good suggestions in there, so I thought I'd make an addendum video where I go through the comment sections of the past 5 builds and see what we can improve. I also got a lot of supportive comments, which I really appreciate. I'm thinking about doing this every 5 build videos that I do, so hopefully this becomes like a recurring conversation in the future. We'll get started in order, so we'll go with the Gotva first. The real Toasty called me a noob. You're right, man. I don't have the one seal of approval. I lack the required investing knowledge to know that I could have bought 50 accounts with a founder's pack and then sold them on for a gross profit these days. Easy game.
Thanks, it looks how I thought it would look. Mastery fodder gun. Burst in Prime Incarnate
But
very
why
much.
use this when you got Latron Incarnate?
The problem is that the Ignis Wraith without it makes more damage.
DE's been trying to contain the Ignis for years, and all the Incarnate weapons are fantastic. I just love looking into strange mechanics and playstyles, and since the Gotva had nothing in its description or anything online, I thought I'd do the research myself, and then I made the video about it.
What are you? What?
Plus, Warframe's a very easy game once you get to a certain point in it, so an interesting gun's always better in my opinion, even if it is just a slot machine. Since then they've added it to the description, and then with update 34 they've added the unique passives marker in the modding screen for most weapons, leading to a lot of people in the comment section who don't understand linear time. I think it'd have been funnier if they left it off the description permanently though. Arced Void said, "I love math." Don't lie in my comment section. There was also a lot of comments suggesting alternate setups for the Gotva, some using viral and slash, some using other setups, such as prioritising critical damage, so I ran a test through a few of them to see which one was more efficient. And overall, there really wasn't that much variation between the setups, so it's basically just a preference of playstyle. The most interesting comment to me was by Robots, who noticed that the Vigilante mods were actually buffing the tier of the red crit that the passive was giving. It makes sense that it would work, but I just thought I'd try and make a build around it anyway. This build's pretty good, but it does add on to that slot machine aspect that I mentioned earlier. I saw a few people talking about not being able to get the weapon anymore since it was a Twitch drop. Luckily, Baro's going to bring it around every now and again, however, this is an incredibly low chance, but from my testing, I've actually found that Sacrifice seems to assist a lot. Kaya Bjorn asked, can Sentinels proc primary Frostbite, like Taxon's Laser Beam? And it turns out, yeah, it actually can. Don't know what I'm going to do with this information, but I'll find something for it. This cocky fucker said, hey small YouTuber, because I know you'll read this, try Gotva in the sim without being host. Grab someone to host for you, and try shoot the Gotva at enemies. Tell me if you notice anything. This is referring to the weird way the Gotva performs when in high latency. Basically, you still get those 15% red crit chances, but instead of deploying them instantly, like when you're in a low latency area, it instead deploys all of them at once after a little while once the server's caught up with what it's doing. And with that we're done with the Gotva, so we'll move on to the Atlas video. First we got to say goodbye to one of my favourite exploits though. Team Tyrannus said, from my testing, it seems that after update 34, Arcane Steadfast no longer gains / loses stacks from free abilities like Landslide, and I double checked his testing and turns out that it's true. So that's a real shame. Okay, this comment was on the Zephyr video, but it makes more sense to put it here anyway. Jackalope88 said, you should make a video on the funny Atlas Rockman augment. Now, I would have happily done that, but Jelmel actually produced a fantastic video going into all of the maths behind Atlas Rumbled and made it a lot stronger. Unmai Kamune said, have you tried using Lycan's Hunt since landslide kills are considered pseudo-melee to get energy as well, using Equilibrium in order to get the energy from the health orbs? Now this also works on all exalted melee weapons, and it's a great way to sustain your energy while using them, and since I'm sorted on damage, I choose this over Tharos Strike these days. No6808 said, I actually really like running Path of Statues for a little neat rubble snack later. What did I just say about lying in my comment section? Shell Nanigans said, do you have the Incarnons for the Gorgon and Furax? I've got them both since making the video. I found a Gorgon Incarnon really isn't that useful for the overall build, but the Furax Incarnon's third evolution stops your combo drain, so you don't have to use Naramon anymore. What I found interesting was Hendrik Martin said, you should look at the Ceramic Dagger or Magistar Incarnon for a stat stick. They add flat status and crit to landslide before mods. Now this applies for all Incarnon melee weapons that give you extra critical chance or status chance, with the best one being the Mark 1 bow, which gives you a 38% critical chance buff. With the base critical chance of 5%, plus the 30% you get from the Ceramic Dagger, you end up with a 35% critical chance. This then buffed with Sacrificial Steel, and then the 12 times combo with Blood Rush and a full Gladiator set can get you up to 551.25% critical chance. If you do choose to use the Mark 1 bow instead, then it'll bring you up to 677.25% critical chance. This extends to all Incarnon melees as well, so you can use it on Excalibur or Baruch if you wanted to. The main benefit of the Ceramic Dagger is that one of its evolutions means that your primary kills will add to your initial combo counter, up to 100, so you can get a 5 times multiplier right off the bat. Faceless Artist said, nah, take Techo Prime, max crit damage and flat viral, and sometimes you can achieve red crit on the first ability and nuke Steel Path. What the fuck did I say about lying in my comments section? The Dethcube Prime in particular doesn't do anything for the crit rate of Landslide. Its only passive is that it has an extra 6% stats chance when wielded by Atlas. This means you'll be working with Landslide's base critical chance of 5%, so even with a full sacrificial steel set, 12 times combo with Blood Rush and the Gladiator set on, you'll still only get a 78.75% critical chance, which is 122.25% away from getting a 1% red crit chance. Even max rank Arcane Avenger's not going to save you there.
You're not just wrong, you're stupid. And you're ugly, just like your mum.
Makes Me Smell Bad said, since you're using lots of energy support, do you think Quick Thinking in place of Umbral Vitality might add even more effective HP due to the damage reduction? It would make it easier to stack Rubble as armor because you wouldn't have to heal as much if you're health tanking, making you reach your cap for Rubble heat faster. Unfortunately, this doesn't give you as much health as using a standard armor mod does with Atlas, and since Rubble prioritizes health before armor, when you're health tanking on your energy, all of your Rubble is going to be immediately consumed to try and recover your health anyway. But if we use Lycanth's Hunt from earlier to offset the damage taken, we could then use the effective health as a buffer if we do end up taking too much damage. Combine that with the red crits from earlier for the damage, and it might end up being quite an effective build, and if it is, you're probably seeing it in the background now. Now Atlas is improved, let's move on to Dethcube. There are a few comments under the Dethcube video suggesting to use Equilibrium, which I should have thought of, to be honest. There are also quite a lot of people who are mad about my comments about the Vulpifiler, and I'd just like to put out a public apology and say, sorry that I didn't go harder, you all need to be locked up. There's also questions regarding survivability, but thanks to the new companion rework, if your Sentinel takes too much damage, you can just stick it in a bag of rice and it'll repair over time. There was also a question about how I'd go about updating the build now that we've got the new companion rework, and now primed regen and animal instinct are no longer as mandatory as they used to be. The only real recommendation I have is using restorative bond to take advantage of all of the health orbs that will be lying around on the ground because of synth deconstruct, but that's the only mod that really makes a difference. I was really hoping duplex bond would give a nice synergy, but unfortunately it doesn't work. But Crab had a great notice that Wisp shock motes can be picked up by the Dethcube and then used to proc energy generator. I also did some testing to see whether this could get around duplex bonds' can't work with abilities nerf, but unfortunately it doesn't work. Great video. Any chance we can get a video about your Oberon build? If I get to 1,000 subs, I'll do it. This joke unfortunately had to be put down during editing because I don't understand linear time. Another question I got was whether there are any alternatives to the Hellstrom. Now, you could use something like the Cry Ultra or the Verglass, and then mod it for Gas, since Gas has a 3 meter radius AoE proc, or if you can get a Sentinel weapon that does high enough damage to kill, then you can use Combustion Beam, which has an 18 meter radius. But when it comes to prioritizing AoE, which is what you want, you're best off using the Hellstrom, which is then modded for Gas. Because with Hellstrom's base 3 meter radius with Prime Firestorm, you get 4.32 meters. Then, with the gas proc on top of that, you can get up to 7.32 meters. Now we're doing the Dethcube video, we'll move on to Zephyr, which I will admit, I'm not very happy with this video, but I'll probably go back to it one day. Before I get into the Zephyr bit, I just want to recommend that you check out Sajinkahn-Alt's video on Zephyr, where he goes into a deep dive on all of her powers and abilities. It's a 2-part series, and I really wish I'd known about it before I started the Zephyr video. It would have saved me a lot of time.
Reducing damage while airborne is great, but her third ability exists.
But
right?
why invest so much into
Am I missing
survivability when her
something?
3 gives you invincibility?
You know what, that's a good point. We might as well remove the 3 since we've got so much survivability in the air anyway and replace it with something more useful. After the Hydroid changes made Corrosive Barrage a lot more powerful, we might as well put that on instead of her 3, and then when that's combined with the Tornadoes, it can hit for some pretty serious damage. Mr. Grim Eximate said, I will gladly pay 3,621,842,965 plat for a Sentinel mod if it means I don't have to get synthesis targets for Cimaris. Well, I've got good news for you, mate. Turns out there is one. It's called a gun. Comfortable Fetus said, my man be slandering Zephyr's 1 like the augment doesn't make it the single most powerful and best scaling power in the game. I mean, sure, if you don't touch the ground, staying in the air as Zephyr is difficult if you haven't got the anti-gravity mods. Target fixation does actually work in a way where it can touching the ground, which means you can use it to reset Exodia Contagion, and also use it to reset Aerial Ace, so you can stay in the air effectively forever with it. There's a few comments about Zors as well. Piotr Kluger said, last time I checked, Heavy Melee in the air got patched, and then Pyro Crimson said, I think they're patching it in the upcoming update. But it still works, you still get the 2 times on your crit chance mods. Coming off that though, Hevuk said, the initial combo damage doesn't work on the heavy attack bomb, I think. And I tested that and it does seem to from what I can tell. And then finally, Haunted Shadows Legacy mentioned using a secondary as a stat primer in order to use Condition Overload on Exodia Contagion's bomb. But conditional mods don't apply to the bomb, so that won't be affecting it. And finally, now that we're done with Zephyr, we'll move on to the Rauta, or rather, Mesa video, since that's what most of the comments were about. So there's a few suggestions on different ways to build up your combo counter for secondary Outburst. William Gwynn suggested using Ash's Blade Storm. This is a really good way to build up your combo counter, but then combine that with Smoke Shadow for the 150% critical chance while invisible, you can get 390% critical chance buff at 12 times combo for your secondary weapons. Cryptic Loki then suggested using Tandem Bond on a Cavat in order to build up your combo counter from the hits that it does, which is another fantastic way of doing it if you want to offload it onto your companion. And finally,
Guess who's back? Hey, Ron. Hey, Billy. Back again.
the Ceramic Dagger returns. Because of its ability to build up initial combo counter, if you want to use secondary Outburst a lot more passively as just a general buff, this is probably the way to go. Noah Edenborg also pointed out that the Gun and Blade perk actually can be stacked up by regulators, which is fantastic. Balbal Official said that you could build up combo counter by shooting your allies. This has unfortunately been patched, though I can't see it in the patch notes. I'm assuming it's because it got accidentally added to Conclave, and therefore shooting 10 counted towards the enemy hit stat. Circling back around to the companion though, King Cobra said, no Vicious Bond on Mesa for the 1.2 times crit multiplier. Now, I've only just recently gotten all of the companion mods, and they're all brilliant, and I'm assuming you mean Tenacious Bond. This is a fantastic suggestion, so I've went back and reworked my Adasa a little bit. I also got a few comments asking whether this tech works on Titania, and it does, but I don't really understand why you would do it, since Titania only has a 10% crit chance at base, but yeah, it's your play, so do what you want. Mr. Last Guide said that putting armor on a Mesa is the wildest thing he's seen in a video, which is a good point. It's just a force of habit that I've always done, and I never even considered it, so thanks for pointing that out. I've actually removed it off and put adaptation on instead. And to answer your question, yeah, you can just swap between primary and secondary. And for the final comment, a random guy L9402 said, you sound like Virgil if he drinks NyQuil. Give me a second.
If you want it, then you'll have to take it.
I'm going to end the video now. Anyway, thanks for watching. This took fucking ages. Turns out doing multiple small tests takes longer than doing one large test. So, next video is Korra. Shouldn't take anywhere near as long, hopefully. Or it's going to end up being a 40-minute long video. We'll just see how it goes. If you want to see that, then feel free to subscribe. But don't just subscribe. Do what I do. Gaslight the YouTube algorithm by subscribing to a channel, and then every time one of their videos pops up, tell YouTube that you don't want this channel recommended to you until your feed is full of shit posts, because it has no idea what the fuck you want. Anyway, I'll probably see you soon. Have a good one.